Well, hello and welcome to our complimentary webinar, which is brought to you today in partnership with NICE, Auscontact's national gold sponsor, which is entitled 2degrees Mobile, Powering Customer and Agent Experiences Through the Cloud. Today's webinar will run for approximately 60 minutes, and during that time, with the help of today's special guests, Tracy and Gil, we want to engage in the conversation, have your interest sparked, and provide some ideas to take back to your businesses. To round off the session, we'll be having a Q&A at the end. I'm Fiona Keogh, CEO of Auscontact, and your moderator for today. While we're waiting for everyone to join us, let's use the time to quickly run through some housekeeping. Remember, it's important to interact with us to maximise the benefit, and as you know, there's no need to take too many notes because we'll be providing you with the recording of the webinar. To interact with us, please use the Q&A button on the control panel. You can ask questions or make comments for Tracy, Gil, or myself from time to time. Remember, we will have a full Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so please type your questions as we go along so you don't forget to ask them. Also, remember to ask a question during the webinar for a chance to win a Poly Voyager 8200 UC Bluetooth stereo headset. The winner will be announced after the webinar. If you're listening through headsets or speakers and experience any issues with your internet connection, please note that on the control panel, you can click the raise hand button and the Auscontact team will rush to your aid. Or you can revert to the original email with the link to the webinar, and all the relevant phone numbers and access codes are available there for you. I know that many of you are familiar with asking questions. But let's try the Q&A button on the control panel now, just in case. And of course, I'm going to ask a trick question because I can. And the trick question for today is, which country is in a travel bubble with Australia that started on the 19th of April? And potentially, one of our guest speakers today is from that country, potentially, just saying. Well, Samantha and Alex, we got a homie there, Deepak, also all know, without further ado, that the answer to that is New Zealand. And I don't know if any of you have been watching the media in both countries, but how heartwarming is it to see people greeting each other at the airport? It's just amazing. So I'm going to remind you once again that it's important to ask a question during the webinar for a chance to win that Poly Voyager 8200 UC Bluetooth stereo headset. And remember that the winner will be announced after the webinar. So with that, it gives me great pleasure to welcome two new voices to the Auscontact webinar family. And it's my great pleasure to welcome Tracy Duffy, Head of Service Development and Support and 2degrees Mobile, and Gil Shapira, Solution Consultant, NICE inContact. And it's over to you, Tracy. Welcome.
Hey everyone, how are you? It's a bit weird, I can't actually see you, but talking to you anyway. Anyway, I hope you're great and excited to be here. Personally, I'm a little bit petrified as I'm probably the worst public speaker you'll ever hear. So please be kind, especially when I fall over my words or can't get the PowerPoint presentation to work properly, as you probably just saw before. So as Fiona said, I'm Tracy and I lead the service development and support team at 2degrees. So this team includes an operational change team, project change, tier 2 support, administration, workforce management, incident management, and as of last week, I also got training and I'm very excited about that. Saying that, the reason I'm here today is not because of any of that stuff. It's because last year we implemented a NICE inContact contact center solution, and I was lucky enough to be the business owner for this. So before I get started, I just want to tell you a little bit about 2degrees. We are a full service telecommunications company in New Zealand. So this means we sell, manage and support mobile and internet services to consumer and business customers. And this actually includes corporate and government sectors. 2degrees launched in 2009 as a market challenger, shaking up our two incumbent telcos with this mobile offer that delivered better value for money to the New Zealand prepay market. So at the time, it was only New Zealand prepay. So we've grown a lot since then. Now as I said, we're a full service telecommunications company. We're also a value-based organisation. Our values are so important that rather than reward employees meeting performance targets, we instead celebrate and award employees who role model our different values. Our company purpose is fighting for fair, so it's really a consideration in everything we do. It's also something that resonates with the New Zealand market. As I said, we're over 10 years now and we're growing from strength to strength. All in all, 2degrees has a really great work culture. Within 2degrees, I sit in the customer care team, and as a team, we have three key strategies: customer experience, employee experience, and our future of work. Wow, enabling the future of work. What does that mean? So, quite simply, for 2degrees, we want to have the ability to work from both the home and from the office. And from home, we want it to be in one of the cities that we have two contact centres. So we've got one contact centre in Auckland, which is primarily around our mobile services, and one contact centre in Christchurch, which is primarily around our broadband or internet services. Or we want them to work anywhere in the country, really. So like Araha, who lives in Ashburton, or John, who lives in Geraldine, we want them to be able to work anywhere remotely and still be part of our contact centre team. As you can imagine, this isn't just about grabbing your laptop at the end of the day and work, putting it in your bag and then going home and working from there. There's so much more that we've had to get right. Last year, amongst our lockdown of that well-advertised COVID-19 pandemic, we, and I'm sure most of you as well, were plunged into this working from home scenario. And in New Zealand, we only had 48 hours notice. At this time, we were the only New Zealand telco with a fully New Zealand contact centre. So we needed to take this COVID-19 challenge and we needed to turn it into an opportunity. This opportunity was to look at our care function differently. We looked at our face-to-face leadership, our training remotely, the skills required to help a leader lead, and implementing technology. Over the same period, it's quite awesome, we actually implemented the second biggest software project that 2degrees had ever undertaken. And this, surprisingly enough, was the inContact contact centre platform. This implementation, although started well before we even knew that COVID existed, was the catalyst in enabling our future of work, and more specifically, working from home. So don't get me wrong, working from home was always part of our roadmap. We always wanted to have the tools and processes to enable this. However, when we went into that lockdown with, as I said, 48 hours notice, everything was sped up and we needed to adapt quickly. If we take a step back, I just want to tell you a bit about what life was like before COVID, for us anyway. At the time, we had two different IVRs and ACDs, and we had a separate quality management, call recording, and WFM systems. We also used a different tool for our non-voice channels. Thankfully, though, we had already implemented NICE for our internet services or broadband channel. So our network was up and running, and we had that capability of moving the team to working from home. And it being SaaS, this caused us minimal issues. The issues actually started with our hardware. Our customer care agents were all on desktops, so picking these up and moving these home was not really such a simple task. And what's worse, they all ran like dogs. So it was touch and go that if we did pick them up and take them home, if they would even work. But once again, that clock was ticking. So with 48 hours to set everyone up, we made this decision to enable VDI as our remote network. This gave us the opportunity for agents to utilize BYOD. Yep, so our agents were now able to use their own computers, and this was what the majority of them did. And that was perfect for that majority, But as it turns out, not everyone had their own computer. So we scrambled around and we got spare laptops from the business, any that they had to offer. Unfortunately, though, it turns out that the only available ones were those bricks. By bricks, I mean those really big old computers that weighed a ton. And well, personally, I thought they'd been scrapped in the 1990s, but it turns out they were just stuck under a desk somewhere. So anyway, we risked our health and safety issues by giving them out, people having to lift them up. The weight of those things are insane. And we handed out as many as we could. We didn't quite have enough to cover everyone. We've got quite a big contact centre. So for the remaining poor people, they had to take those desktops home. We then spent the next 2 months playing catch up. And to be fair, it's not really just 2 months. This is a continuous improvement cycle that we're still doing. We're always adapting and learning and making changes. We did other things too. We looked at our processes, our management, our technology, our communication, and of course, our mental health. Unsurprisingly, not everyone enjoyed being plunged into isolation, and we were the lucky ones in New Zealand. Our first lockdown was a matter of weeks rather than months. So when working from home was instigated, we made a policy that we had cameras on, giving the ability for us to, our teams or our team managers to look at our teams to check that everyone was actually okay. When they didn't want to put their cameras on, we took that as a warning sign that they weren't doing really that well. So we spent more time with them, finding out what was going and giving them support. We also built a chat structure. So our teams and our team managers had a unified approach to communicate with their teams and the support teams around them. And speaking of communications, our huddles, our team meetings and our one-on-ones were key. And we put effort to ensure that these were never cancelled. I can't say they were never cancelled, but we put a lot of effort into it. And our coaching, well, you know, when we were in the office, these were side by sides. A team manager would literally sit side by side to an agent. But when we went into lockdown, this was completely flipped on its head and it all had to happen virtually. We managed this with the power of screen recording and quality management. We also ordered new computers, much to everyone's delight, and we future-proofed them so that they were fast enough to enable RDA. RDA, Robotic Desktop Automation. And this has been integral to our plan to succeed. We are cutting down handle times dramatically and giving our agents a much better experience. No more of those bricks and no more desktops that people have to take home. I have to say though, that the single biggest thing that we did to help enable our future of work, and especially in this time of such turmoil, was to implement that NICE platform for our mobile customers. Our previous mobile contact center platform was over 10 years old and it was out of support. It was supposed to be replaced 6 months after 2degrees launched, and here we were over 10 years later in lockdown with a system that we both wanted and needed to replace. This was also a fundamental time for us, with our customers needing both mobile and internet services stable while working from home, and our competitors were struggling with overseas contact centres that were needing to close. So although there was an element of risk around it, we knew we needed to move quickly and implement NICE remotely while in lockdown. Look, this had a potential to be a complete nightmare as we had so much riding on this. We had an approximately 75% containment rate in our mobile self-service, so it was therefore absolutely essential that we protect this, as the implications would have meant that 4 times the volume would have come into the centre. Thankfully though, it went as smooth as a baby's bottom. And I have to say, what an outstanding effort from both our team and the NICE team. There were really next to no issues at all. After it was implemented and we did all of our testing and that was all complete, we sort of all just sat back, dumbfounded, waiting for something to go wrong. But it didn't. And at this point, we were now in a position where we could work from anywhere, and it was the start of our future of work. We also focused on empowering our workforce. We knew we needed to set up our team for success. We are trying to do this in a number of ways via our people or training, our processes, giving the teams a trusted environment, and of course, our tools. By people, I don't just mean our agents, but all of the support teams who are there to ensure success. We invest heavily in our team managers, our quality, and our service development teams. We coach, we train, and we communicate to our people constantly. We also trial, review, and reflect to make sure we're doing the right things. We try and test and learn and find we move faster, so it's okay if we make some mistakes along the way. A major area that we are trialing at the moment is around our induction. For a long time, it was all about telling our agents what to do and how to do it. They didn't have to think because we had an answer for everything. Not much fun for the agents, really, if you think about it. They're a bit like robots. Anyway, now we're moving to empowering our agents to think for themselves. We're giving them the right business acumen and the right tool access to be able to make the right choices for both the customer and our business. And as you can imagine, that is a bit of a balancing act, because if our agents lean too heavily on the customer side, then we won't have a viable business. But if they go too heavily on the business side, then it won't be a great customer experience. So it really is about getting that balance right. And we're also choosing the right people. We've recently partnered with a company who has surveyed our high performers, mid performers, and low performers to establish different capabilities. We have then used these to form interview questions so we can employ agents who actually enjoy working in a contact center environment. As you can imagine, not everyone actually does. It's not the right job for them. So let's see if we can get that sorted out up front. We hope that it will help with our customer experience, our engagement, and of course, attrition. Look, this has actually only just started. We've had one group that has currently gone through induction, so we're obviously waiting for results for that. But the feedback that I got around that induction was that the agents who were in there felt more engaged and actually wanted to be there. So it's not all the answers that we've got, but it's a really good start. We then overlay this with the right processes so our workforce know the basics of what they need to do and where to go if they need specific information. And we're constantly trying to build trust with our teams. We are honest and supportive, listen and encourage, and we model the right behavior. I mentioned that we invest heavily in our team managers. There's a real focus on leading, not managing, coaching, not telling, and having upfront, honest conversations. The idea is for our teams to feel like they're in an environment of trust rather than blame, and for them to grow and engaged. It's also about leading others to take ownership and accountability. Finally, though, without the right tools, none of this would work. Although we use a number of tools such as RDA and Teams, NICE is our key to empowering our workforce. With NICE across the whole company now, we have the ability to fail over from one centre to the other. So as I said before, we've got these two contact centres. One is in Christchurch and one is Auckland. So for some reason something goes wrong with one of those centres, such as Christchurch, our Auckland team can take over, or vice versa. If something happens in the Auckland team, then the Christchurch team can take over. And now with our future of work, with our ability to work from home, actually we can just fail over to anywhere in the country. To set this up correctly though, and to ensure that that failover works, we are cross-skilling our agents between our internet service products and our mobile service products. This way we'll be ready for any scenario, and we are. We also have the tools, performance management and quality management, so our agents can see what they are doing and how they are doing it. Performance management provides dashboards and wallboards. This means that an individual agent can have the visibility of how they are doing against their own KPIs, and a team manager can look at the view of that individual or for their whole team. And then we've got wallboards in the centre that we can see how the whole centre is doing. Working from home has got a lot more achievable having that real-time data available for them. And let's not forget screen recording. What a genius invention that was. We have also given our team managers this visibility so they can focus on coaching. It is our team managers' #1 goal to make their team the best performing in the contact centre. And now with NICE, they have the tools available to do it. Oh, and one last thing about empowering our workforce. NICE has also given us the ability for our teams to ensure the best outcome for our customers via real-time allocation of workflow. So this allows everything to be worked on by service level. For example, calls always have the highest priority. However, if we get to our email service level before we've worked on it, then this will then take priority. Look, I'm sure this makes sense to you all, and it certainly isn't rocket science. However, prior to moving to NICE, we didn't have that ability. We had different tools for voice and email, and therefore you couldn't allocate an interaction by service level. It was a matter of taking an individual or individuals off one interaction completely for a period of time and then putting them on another one. Honestly, we're really happy that we no longer need to do that. And if I flip to the next page, I'll show you the results. If I flick to the next page, there we go. Creating Omnichannel Excellence. Okay, so to be fair, our journey to Omnichannel Excellence has only just started. Actually, at this point, we can only really call it multi-channel. We only have 2 channels working together, so that's voice and email. Later this year, we're expecting to implement chat with the assistance of our chatbots, and then ta-da, we'll actually be able to say it's omnichannel. Saying that, however, I think life is pretty good already with this multi-channel excellence. I would even go so far as to say that this is the #1 best achievement we've witnessed from moving to the NICE platform. So if I talk through this table, in July 2019, we hadn't implemented Omnichannel, and we were only making our SLAs 38% of the time. Moved to July 2020, when we had implemented it, and we were up to 99%. That's a 61% variance. And then we look at our average response time. In July 2019, it was taking us an average of over 33 hours to answer an email. Move forward a year to July 2020, and it was less than 4 hours. That's a negative 89% variance. Those stats, personally, I think are remarkable, and I don't think that anyone at 2 degrees had any idea how good they actually would be. So, do you like my picture? I was looking for a cloud image to make that page look interesting, and every time a picture of a real cloud, an actual cloud came up, it just made me feel so relaxed. Life is so fast-paced at the moment. I really love those little moments of relaxation. You might want to take a deep breath with me. Look, I'm not going to ask you to meditate or anything, but I just thought it was nice to have a look at a lovely picture. Funny really, as this is in complete contrast to the process we went through to build our cloud business case. So how did we manage it? So I've given you a bit of background around our disparate systems previously. So for a number of years, we've known we need to replace these. They were preventing us from moving forward in numerous different ways, but most specifically, working as one center that can operate anywhere. Cloud though, that was a whole new game. We had very limited cloud experience and next to no SaaS experience. The one and only SaaS implementation we had previously done had come with unexpected challenges. True, we did learn from them, but it does make people a little bit gun shy. We also had to contend with our operations and security teams who were wary of the unknown, and it's really not easy to convince them that this made financial and operational sense. Mainly that was around control. Control around managing the system and control around managing our data. If this went wrong, then the implications were huge. So we started slow. We looked at both on-prem and cloud, and we detailed out the pros and cons. We included all the business stakeholders, including those operation and security teams, and we included them along the way. It was time consuming and it was expensive, but if we hadn't done this, then we wouldn't have got their agreement and we wouldn't be where we are today. We sought advice around the things that we didn't know, and we researched a lot. In the end, we got what we wanted because it was the best outcome. It was operationally cheaper for a secure environment that had better functionality than we could ever have hoped for. We now do not need to worry about those difficult upgrades for both software and hardware. We now have the ability to continuously improve, making this great system better all the time. By doing this, we are improving both of our customer and our employee experiences. And I might just add that security have no issues anymore with the platform, and operations are happy not to have to support another system. So in my view, it's a win-win. And the results speak for themselves. In the first few months, we saw the following improvements. Our containment rate increased by 2%. And let me just say that this is just on the mobile side as well. We don't have any self-service in the broadband side, but we will be putting it there. So we will see another improvement, which I'm very much looking forward to. AHT decreased by 2%. We did that cross-skilling that I spoke about between our broadband or internet services and our mobile products. And then because of this, we were able to get, that's not the right way to say it, we were able to free up 17 FTEs. Our customer experience improved. I talked before about our email response time moving up to 99%, and our abandonment rate decreased from 17% to 12%. Our new quality tools allowed us to free up 3 FTEs. Our service level increased by 44%. And our average speed to answer improved by 35%. These results also meant that we met our business case. Woohoo! Look, we've got so much more to do. We are currently in the midst of 2 projects, WFM IX and Outbound Dialer Personal Connection. And later this year, we are looking at implementing both chat aided by chatbots for our better customer experience and gamification to continue our employee experience journey. So to conclude, it isn't just moving to the cloud that has enabled our transformation, innovation, and is what we like to think of as exceptional customer experience. But without it, it wouldn't have been achieved. We wouldn't have achieved what we have so far and what we've got planned to achieve in the future. That cloud may have been difficult to get across the line, but it was well worth it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. You left me with a couple of images. In particular, your heavy computer drives being like sea anchors, is what we would call them, which slows a boat down when it's at sea. So it's probably doing the same thing in the workplace. And of course, your cloud image, how pertinent for the travel bubble. Yay. I'm seeing it from the top, from the window of a plane. So now we're going to ask everybody that's attending to get their hands on the keyboard and answer this question. So what are your team's contact center objectives? And you can answer as many things as you like. Improve employee engagement, productivity and performance, future integration with CRM and other enterprise systems, unified contact center solutions that is future-proof, more seamless customer experience. Self-service solutions, for example, chatbots and AI-based conversational IVR, or if it's not on the list, tell us via the Q&A panel what else you're interested in. Gil, I'm going to throw to you. You didn't know I was going to do this, but because you work with so many different organisations, they must be saying to you when you come in to work with them on a solution, what is the reason? What is the problem that they're trying to solve? What do you see typically?
It really changes, pardon me. It really changes depending on the maturity level. But what we see is mainly customers that are a bit more mature talking about the self-service aspect. So when we talk about chatbots and whatever, and other customers that are in early stages of their program, mainly what we see is actually talking about the basics of we want to move into the cloud and leverage all the things that Tracy mentioned before. So that's what we basically see mostly.
Fantastic. Well, let's close the poll and see how people answered. And if we share those results, oh my goodness, they want a more seamless customer experience, which I guess is kind of all encompassing in reality. Employee engagement, and productivity and performance, which also leads to a great customer experience. We know that they're inextricably linked. And, with unified contact center solutions and self-service solutions next, and then full integration with CRM and other enterprise systems. So it's a big varietal. Nobody popped anything into the Q&A panel. So I guess that was a very comprehensive list, Gil. So well done. So with that, over to you.
So hello, everybody. And first of all, my name is Gil Shapira. I'm part of the ANZ NICE inContact CX1 team. What I wanted to do in the coming 20 minutes or so is share with you a bit of the contact center insights and trends that we see out there, talking with customers like yourselves. And I guess it's going to be really just a brief overview and a very, very high level approach. We won't be able to cover too much, but maybe it will be a good glimpse into things. And don't get me wrong, I don't have the crystal ball. And even if I had the crystal ball, it didn't work back in March 2020. I did not see that COVID-19 happening. Probably like most of us. But really, let's talk about that from a perspective. I guess one of the things that I would have loved to have this session is really in person. Unfortunately, still with the bubble actually happening, maybe that's going to come very close, but still we're doing this session quite remotely. And that's really one of the things that we saw in 2020, reshaping the way contact center are being engaged and basically changing our entire lives. I'm sure you will all agree with me that 2020 was a very different year, a very challenging year. And I guess what we can learn from that, and that's the concept that we're trying to take forward here, is many things that we actually saw happened on a low, what I call on a low volume, but really accelerated through the COVID and the pandemic, really. And we'll go through that in a few things. I love to use, and Tracy will have to excuse me, I don't have a beautiful picture of a cloud, but I definitely want to use that concept. And in my case, I actually have two pictures, not just one, to illustrate a message through. So first of all, this is the way our contact center used to be, right? We used to work close, shoulder to shoulder, tapping on each other's, if we needed a bit of help, if we needed a bit of coaching, a bit of assistance, and brainstorming together. And as we know, this is how we do things today. Right? Working somewhat remotely, and definitely moving forward is going to be somewhat of a hybrid. And I guess with that come a few challenges. And Tracy actually spoke about a lot of them and mentioned a lot of them in her experience. I think really when we talk about customer service and managers, what we see is it's not just the physical aspect that we are, the managers and the employees are remote from one another. The employees, all of us, are really remote from one another. So there's this kind of concept of not just technology that needs to support us. How do we work remotely, overcoming all these security and trust aspects? But it's really also about how do we put the processes in place to make sure that it actually works and we actually help each other, even though we're not in the same room. So there's both technology, but also a lot of processes that we need to be adapt into and make sure that we cover as we go through that. So it's not a simple challenge whatsoever. And during the pandemic, we absolutely saw that. And I actually think that even today, many contact centers are still not what I would call truly equipped to work from home. And in the sense that, once again, it's not just about putting a patch and that we can connect to the contact center or the contact platform. What about the other application that we're using? How do we make it really seamless? I mean, some of the stats that we've seen there talking about 60% of contact center really have major barriers to really work from home, work productively from home. And one of the aspects that Tracy definitely spoke about is the traditional way that we used to run contact center, very heavily infrastructure and on-premise infrastructure. So in the contact center context, we haven't been leveraging the technology as much as other areas, moving into cloud, as much as other technologies, data, for example, or IT have been. And I guess the other aspect is really making sure that we have the right tools to complement the processes that we want to enforce and want to make sure that agents are being still supportive, mentored, and helped out, even though they might not be in the same sort of cubicle as we are. And with that, we see really, if we like to look at the entire perspective of things, we see really mainly 3 areas of disruption. And once again, I'm using disruption as a word, but what I really want to say here is that we've seen trends that have been accelerated by the pandemic. The first one is really about our customers. It's really the nature of how customers and us ourselves, when we go and shop and do interact with vendors, how do we want to work around that? It's really about the fact that we want to be able to easily approach and do the right things without really talking to anybody necessarily, and really feeling that we're specialized, that we're not treated as another number, that the customer, the vendor, actually understand the journey that we're going through. So for example, if we're very savvy around technology, we want to be really completely self-sufficient, do everything on our own without any interaction whatsoever. On the employee side, we see that area of working from home. So it's not just about the new generation, the Generation Z workforce that are coming in, and they want to see all the newest gadgets available to us in the workforce as well. But it's really about being able to work from home and create that kind of hybrid approach into managing and operating both at home and then in the office, and creating that hybrid approach that actually supports that on that side. Last but not least, technology. The disruption that we've seen in technology is very, very strong. And it happens on a few fronts. It's not just about adopting new technology, but really enabling our business to be agile, to be really adaptive, to change very, very quickly. If there's something that COVID actually learned us, and it's across businesses, it's not just to do with contact center, it's the need to be agile, to move and change as changes and abruptions actually hit us. We saw that in restaurants, and we saw that in so many other places. And I think you all agree with me, that's one of the key areas. Now let's go into a bit more depth into all of those. And obviously we understand that, there's 2 approaches into disruption. Disruption could be an opportunity, it could be an obstacle. We would like to see that as an opportunity to adapt, to reinvent, to do things better, and to do them more efficiently. So if we drill down a bit deeper into the customer relationships, we see basically 3 areas. I mean, you definitely can see that the stats that McKinsey actually share with us around the digital adoption, you can see that back in 2017, 2018, they were very, very similar. And once again, there's a bit of growth towards 2019, but there's a big jump in digital adoption when we hit COVID. And once again, we all understand that. But the interesting thing here, it's not just to do with millennials. It's not just to do with the latest generation. What happened is also the other or across generation need to really adopt digital. And that brings us to a few other things to look at. So when we look at the customer relationship, we see 3 different or 3 main themes. One is about proactive intelligence and self-service options. Consumers are looking for more self-service and channels to address an ever-growing number of services that they can consume. So with that, we then see the chatbot, sophisticated chatbots that offer human-like interaction. So that's what we're looking from a customer point of view. The second theme is effortless digital-centric experience. And when you talk about that, it's not just about being able to support digital channels of choice and support those ones that are actually now, let's say social media, email, voice, and what have you. It's the move into what's going to be next, what's going to be the next buzz in channel, so the company can actually organize itself and be ready to adopt the next trend. On top of that, what we also see is the need to navigate quite seamlessly between one channel to the other without losing the context of that customer in its journey. And that's really, really key. Last but not least, the other thing that we really see heavily there is the understanding the behavior of customers and their emotions. So how can we tackle and understand where the customer is at their journey and guide that journey to the right agents with the right context to make sure that more sophisticated, for example, consumers get the appropriate channel and the appropriate interactions with our agents. So if I go a bit deeper, and this is what we wanted to look at. So I want to go a bit into the natural language concept. We're all familiar about the IVR and the menu type IVR, where you actually have a list of options and you basically choose 1, 2, and being routed that way to the right agent. What we're seeing is a change in that approach. I remember the days where I actually had to fly around, and I was using an American airline at the time. And when I actually try to use voice as part of interacting and guiding me through that channel, tree decision kind of thing, it really didn't work. It was really frustrating. What we're seeing now, technology really enables us to have this conversational AI, conversational human-like interaction to guide us to the right destination that we're interested. So 2 things happen there. From a conversational AI perspective, not only the technology enables us to really capture the intent of the consumer, but sometimes we can completely handle that interaction with that conversational AI. So no need for an agent to interact or interfere. The second thing is when we do actually route that interaction to an agent, we really have the entire context. And more so, we even have the sentiment of that call, so we can route it to the most appropriate person to handle that consumer as they need to. And the next thing from there is that the same engine that drives the conversational AI from a voice point of view can be used to then enable us the chatbots. So once again, there's acceleration of resolution. It enables us to provide those kind of services 24/7, once again, without the need of intervention from an agent necessarily. So there's a lot of mundane work that can be handled by those bots, for example. And when we do need to elevate that to, or transfer that to an agent, once we have all the content and all the context of that conversation with the history of that conversation dealt into the right place. I'm almost really keen to ask you, is it all understood? Have I missed anything? But once again, we'll probably do that at the end of the call. The second area that we see quite importantly is the employee relationship. I mean, you actually even in the poll mentioned that. There's no doubt that the world that we're living in, working from home, is going to be hybrid. So it's not going to be one way or the other. And once again, the stats definitely support that. PwC talks about 90% projected to work from home or have some sort of a hybrid approach. But with that, as Tracy so articulately explained to us, there's quite a lot of challenges. And once again, they're not just technological questions or challenges. How do we, if we work remotely, and let's assume that we actually enabled all the infrastructure to support that, how do we mentor, how do we provide performance guidance to our agents when they're remote? So that's one of those things that we need to make sure that we have that ability to, although we're not working in the same cubicle and we're distance apart, that we still have ways to tap on the shoulder, virtually tap on the shoulder of an agent and give them the guidance when they need to, so they can still raise their hand, virtually raise their hand, and we can jump in and help out and provide some feedback. When we talk about smart and flexible staffing, now that we have multiple channels, how do we make sure that we are fully skilled our agents across multiple channels, and then divide the work into the right skill set to make sure that everybody is being occupied but not over-occupied, so the SLAs are not being hurt. Last but not least, how do we keep employees engaged? Given the fact that we're now remote, that's a bit more challenging. How do we add maybe gamification into the interactions and so forth? So when we delve a bit deeper, one of the things that I wanted to share with you is how we actually build in automation into the quality management process. One of the things we're finding is that quality management processes are very manual, very tedious. And on top of that, actually create a bit of subjectivity, at least from the agent point of view. They feel that they are judged by the team lead choosing the wrong interactions, for example. So how can we move that subjectivity and bring that objectivity into the mix? And this is where automation, once again, technology enables us to provide a bit more automation into the mix, understanding, for example, themes of what we discussed. If we then transcribe each call or each interaction, we can understand what elements of the call, whether they were positive, negative, and what was the theme. And based on an engine, an AI engine, we can actually then collate all these interactions across all our agents that we want to review. And the system does it for us. So the quality managed piece, or the choosing of those interactions that are going to be managed and quality interacted, are those that are being picked by the system itself. So moving away from that subjectivity into something that is a lot more objective based on a machine. Moving forward, how do we engage with our agents in a much more gameful or a much more fun way? So one of the things to do, and what we're seeing there, is more mobile phones application that are bringing in all these technologies and all these seamless themes that, like, for example, bidding for shifts. We can actually then create a bit of a game around that, and maybe provide some scoring and points that they can be used to buy and win some gifts. So moving away from those legacy systems that we used to have, and really bringing more refresh technologies, but also mindset into the workforce. Last but not least, when we look at technology, there's no doubt that technology has gone through a major shift. The speed of innovation in the world that we live in is accelerating, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. Once again, there's no doubt, if you look at this statistics from Deloitte and Aberdeen, talking about cloud demand increasing 3 times fold. And one of the themes that actually drives a lot of this is the need to be agile, to be more quick in responding things. And I think, once again, Tracy shared those things with us when she talked about the fact that for them, there's no more need for upgrades and maintenance windows. It's all done for them. The key thing here is really looking at the ability to work from anywhere. And with that, how do we make sure that we actually capture our agents and provide them both the right technology, but also adopting the right processes to deploy and run those interactions very smoothly. We know that cloud provides us unlimited scalability and continuity, but how do we then take the time that is being saved for that and move into rapid innovation? The ability there from a rapid innovation point of view is actually trial and error of things very, very quickly. There's no need to buy and invest in hardware and a lot of other elements to try. For example, if I want to try a new channel, if I want to try a new capability, automate certain things, I can, with the cloud capability, I can trial and error very, very quickly and see what fits my culture, what fits my processes, and what fits the technology that I'm supportive. It's no longer a case of buy or build. A SaaS solution today, in the world that we live in today, can actually have both sides of the spectrum. We definitely can enjoy all the pieces working in harmony, but at the same time, that platform needs to be open enough that when we need to integrate with existing solution, we can. It's not throw the baby with the bathwater, so to speak. When we talk about technology, I want to share with you two themes that are really, really critical. I think we already covered the cloud aspect and what it brings into the contact center. I think automation is one of the other keys. We talked about the self-service part of automation. So when we look at automation, we really look at the entire customer end-to-end journey. We already talked about the self-service aspect with chatbots and conversational AI, and how we can self-service and empower our customers to do things on their own, really basically making sure that agents are not being overwhelmed with interactions with customers if they can actually do it themselves. The other side of things, the other side of the spectrum, is actually using what we call robotic process automation, but also attended process automation to help our agent smoothly work through the platforms that we have. I'm sure most of you have multiple platforms that the agents have to work and interact with as part of gathering information and interacting with customers. That could be billing systems, that could be workforce management solutions, these could be scheduling systems and metering systems and what have you. The idea is that instead of heavy lifting and waiting for IT to fix all these issues with the legacy systems and make them cloud ready or sit in one window, we can actually create a robotic process automation that goes and finds and gathers the information the agents requires automatically. So rather than me as an agent going through those multiple windows and multiple applications and collecting the right information and interacting with multiple systems, we can create this robotic process automation like a wizard that actually does that work for me and represents that information for me. That could be from a smooth interaction with customers, also from a compliance point of view. And just given time, I'm going to push on to the next thing because I want to keep time for questions. Another area, we are living in a world where data is at our fingertips. What if we could actually do the same thing when we talk about guiding and mentoring our agents? Imagine what we do today in traditional way. We actually look at interactions in hindsight after they happen a week or a month later, and we do quality management in a historical kind of manner. In today's world, where data and streaming is available, we can actually interact with data right now. So as an agent, then I'm talking to a customer or interacting with a customer, I can have a system like a real-time interaction guidance and in real time get feedback about how well I'm interacting with that customer. So basically using AI and machine learning, we've created a lot of models and based on billions of interactions, we've created models where we can actually guide the customer about active listening, about compassionate, about other elements or soft skills that now can be interactive and in real time guide our agent to interact the right way, the way that the company wants to do things. And what you can see here in this screenshot is some indicators as the agent interacts with the customer and things are being picked up, whether they're green and red or amber, guiding that agent to fix things right now rather than in hindsight. And once again, summarizing it up, really at the end of the day, we try to take the entire contact center capabilities and put it into what I call in one cloud or one box. CX1 is really a platform, as I said earlier, that provides you both a SaaS platform that is open and cloud ready, cloud native, really can scale to infinity and beyond, as my kids love to say it, and really covers all aspects that we discussed today, from a customer experience, digital-centric service, agile workforce, all infused with robotic automation, AI and ML, all the latest technology, really fitting your organization maturity model and can grow with you into the right elements. That was really just a high-level view of everything, and I really hope that was interesting enough. But if you have any more questions, feel free to reach to us. I think with that, I'll pass it to you.
Thanks, Gil. So this is a poll that we're going to keep running during the Q&A, and you can answer as many of the answers that are there. So which technology investments are priority for the next 6 to 12 months? AI, analytics and automation, cloud contact center, workforce optimization, chatbots, and conversational AI. So don't forget, asking a question is super important because you do have an opportunity to win that Poly Voyager 8200 UC Bluetooth stereo headset. So Gil, I'm going to throw the first question at you just because I can. So the question is, regardless of whether the pandemic happened, do you think cloud software is the way of the future for contact centers? I know it's a bit of a leading question.
Yes, it is. I mean, here's the funny thing. I spent a fair bit of my time in IT, and I saw the journey that IT went through, let's say 10, 15 years ago, where when cloud sort of came in, the question was, why should I go there? And when you think about it today, it's not about, do I go to the cloud? Why should I not be in the cloud? And I think contact center is just lagging in that kind of journey. So there's no doubt that the pandemic just accelerated the journey that we already been aligned to, kind of thing. And I think Tracy definitely said that the two mobiles actually were on that journey before the pandemic started. It was good for them to be in that position.
Thanks, Gil. Tracy, we have a question for you. And so Gil might be able to help out. But Tracy, what was the biggest learning you had when implementing NICE?
So I had lots of learnings, really. I guess the learning from the start was understanding that there was this functionality available. We went from such an old system that I spoke about before, not just one, but multiple systems. And we didn't really know what was out there. So our biggest learning was finding out all the functionality that was available that we could start using. And I guess that was a real eye-opener and a big excitement for all of us as well, so that we knew what we could have in the future.
Fantastic. Well, you've got lots of questions coming. Another question, have you seen customer complaints drop over this period?
That's a really good question. I don't know that we have measured customer complaints. I love the question. I just don't have an answer for you, unfortunately. Let me find out.
Fantastic. And you are the top of the pops with the popularity with the questions. Tracy, another one. So this might be a little bit politically sensitive. So if you're not comfortable with answering, we do understand. With the 17 FTEs that you saved, were their skills redeployed as well?
So, I mean, with all contact centres, we know that we have a attrition rate there. Absolutely no one lost their jobs at all. They were either moved into they weren't even moved into other roles. It happened naturally. So people did move into other roles, and that would be where a saving happened, or attrition, people would be leaving for particular reasons. We've got quite a big contact centre, so as you can imagine, it doesn't take that long to build that many people up. So I guess the key thing is nobody lost their jobs, and we would never think of making anyone lose their jobs with everything that we do.
Yeah, and I guess given the period that this was happening throughout COVID as well, you'd be particularly attuned to that situation. Another question for you, Tracy. I told you were popular. Mm-hmm. So what has your team's reaction been to these changes?
Love them. I've had positive feedback continuously. So this is not just from the agents who, as I say, we did not have great systems before, so it's much easier for them to use, and that ability to work from home as well. But also our support teams, like our service development part of my team, being able to make the changes is so much easier. Then as far as if we look wider abroad, I said, the operations and the security teams are happy. Basically, everyone's really happy with the change that we've made.
Fantastic. Gil, I'm going to ask you a question about the approach. So what would your advice be to organisations who are considering cloud but are hesitant to take on a lengthy business case, financial investment, and significant change management and transformation?
Wow, that's a
and you've got 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. I don't believe I've got a silver bullet answer for that, and I want to be really, really honest. And I guess it really depends on the organization and the culture. There's no doubt in my mind, and as we've seen, that there's benefits. There's plenty of ROI calculators from government that don't really care about the financial aspect necessarily, that have other measurements, to really organizations that really care about the bottom line. Cloud does provide a very, very comprehensive solution, an alternative to existing. I guess one of the things that customers need to do is really talk to others. So talk to peers, talk to other organizations that went through it, and see what really ticks, what really makes a difference. Because at the end of the day, you have to go through the hard yards. You have to find the right compelling event to go through that process. If you have to build a business case and the process means certain things, you just need to have to go through that. And there's always learning in that process, but when the benefits overtake the pain.
Fantastic. Well, with that, I'm just going to ask for some closing remarks from both of you. Tracy, closing remarks.
Okay, so if I was to advise anyone if they wanted to go on this journey to move from on-premise to cloud, to move to the nice inContact platform, I would fully endorse it. As I said, it's not a difficult, it's not an easy process, and as Gil just said to that as well, it really isn't. You have to go through the hard yards, but it's so well worth it. And it's not just for the contact center, it's for the whole business. So my closing remarks are, go get cloud.
Fantastic. And Gil, from you.
I would say definitely go get cloud, but I also say think about the process and don't think just the first step. Think about where you want to be. So to think 6 steps ahead and be aware of what you choose and how you choose it.
Well, with that, it's a huge thank you to Tracy and Gil for sharing your expertise today. Thank you so much. To everyone that attended, I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you have some nuggets to take back to your businesses. And with that, I'm going to also thank our national gold sponsor, NICE, and wish you a wonderful rest of your day, wherever you might be. See you next time.